I think you're all there.
Ah, this is nice.
It is nice, isn't it? Thanks so much for that introduction, Ross, and thanks to all of you for showing up today. It's brilliant to be here, and thanks to Sam, Faye, Nick, and Aurora for being part of this conversation. So my name is Chiara. I work at a charity called Julie's Bicycle, and we were originally founded by the UK music industry around 15 years ago to help the music industry come together around climate action. And we now do that working across the arts and culture in the UK, but also internationally. And I've worked in this space for nearly 10 years, and actually quite a lot of the time I get people coming up to me and they're like, where are all the artists, where are all the musicians stepping forward in climate change? And my answer tends to be, if you haven't seen them, if you haven't heard them, then you haven't been paying attention, because actually there is this amazing community within the artist world who are all doing their own thing, finding their own way to step up, speak out, take action behind the scenes, sometimes on platforms, using their voice. And so I'm really delighted to have the four of you with me. So just to begin with, I'm not going to do any lengthy introductions, but why don't we just go around, starting with you, Sam? You're in the hot seat.
I apparently am, yeah.
If you just briefly introduce yourself and talk a little bit about any of the climate and music projects that you're working on at the moment.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, my name's Sam Fisher. I'm sorry that Andy Ketto couldn't be here, but I'm stepping in. Didn't intend to be sitting. Thank you. I didn't intend to be sitting in the hot seat, but here I am. Being totally transparent, I'm quite new in my climate journey, but being from Australia and being in Australia when the bushfires were happening in 2019, that was kind of my big awakening moment. And I know for myself, I got quite sick. I think it was because of how much smoke was in the air, waking up every morning, seeing the orange sun through this like terrible layer of smoke. And so that was my first kind of like, maybe I should do a little more research into what's actually going on. And so I'm still stepping into it. I kind of have found through my own research that there are so many things that we as individuals can do, the general things that are on every climate change website, what we can do to fight climate change, but at the end of the day, as individuals, it's great to step up. But what we need is the people who came here to make those decisions, to give the funding, to make those, I guess, the action that is needed to fight that climate change. So that's kind of, I'm at the start, but we're stepping into it, and I'm stoked to be here with everyone today.
Welcome. For any of you who were here earlier, Sophie from Earth% was saying it's a brilliant climate and music family, so welcome to the fold. Faye, actually particularly speaking about putting pressure on politicians as well, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the work that you've been doing?
Yes, so I'm Faye Milton, previously a drummer in a band called Savages, still, I guess, who knows, and I'm a co-founder of Music Declares Emergency. So we launched in 2019 to bring the music industry together with Julie's Bicycle. Actually, it was sort of a co-idea. What would you call it? Yeah, coming together. And our declaration is basically calling on governments to reach net zero by 2030, or aim for that at least. And to green the music industry, address social injustice that has led to the climate crisis, amongst a couple of other things. So with that declaration, it was mainly a declaration of emergency to make people really sit up and take on how serious this was and just get engaged. So yeah, we launched with loads of the music industry on board: Universal, Warner, Sony, Beggars, huge artists, Billie Eilish, Tom York, I always say those two, Shabaka Hutchins, amazing. 3,000 artists. Sorry, I had such a late night. And yeah, I feel like I've said this story so many times now this week. But so yeah, it's been a huge amount of engagement from the music industry, and now it's just trying to find ways to make that action rather than just assigning a declaration. It's like putting it into action.
And that collective action and giving people the tools as well to sort of speak up collectively. I think, again, you will have seen the video earlier, one of the Music Declares Emergency videos, which we've been showing at festival screens as well, to sort of bring everyone together. Great,
yeah,
thanks.
the idea of it, I guess, was to like safety in numbers, because it's quite hard for artists sometimes to go out on a limb by themselves, to be shot down, especially with our UK media. So moving all together, then, you know, it's safety in numbers.
Brilliant.
These two are both signatories, actually, of the declaration.
Got there eventually. Nick, how about you?
Yeah, hi, my name is Nick Mulvey. I'm a singer and a songwriter and a musician, and I think that I have a fundamental orientation within my songs, within my music, to speak about what I feel is truth, and often the songs in their own ways explore self-knowledge, self-understanding, and from there, the songs, they explore kind of the root. What I see is a lot of the time the root cause of the separation we feel from reality, from the earth we live in. And so I don't really think of my music as music and climate. I think climate's a symptom of these kind of deeper causes. So it kind of pervades all of my music in many ways. I'm interested in re-indigeneity, what it means to be indigenous, like what it means to be indigenous, belonging to the land as a Northern European person. What happened to our indigenous connection to the land, even if that goes back, threads way back to the Romans, and why is that really important in this moment in time? And I've had certain projects that have been more explicitly involved in climate change. One of them was a song I wrote called In the Anthropocene, where the chorus is, in the Anthropocene, what does your freedom mean? And I wanted to express the themes in the song across the song itself, but also the platform and the medium that we released the song in. So we created a world first with the world's first playable vinyl made from 100% recycled plastic found in the ocean. And all the proceeds went to a UK charity called Surfers Against Sewage. And it was a really satisfying project, because it kind of it taught me that there's many ways to make a point. I often burden the lyrics with having to do a lot, and I realized, okay, no, the lyrics can be freer because we can explore points in different platforms and different mediums. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Thanks, Nick. Aurora, how about you?
Yeah, hello guys, I'm Aurora, and I think my approach to combining music with the environment, which I think is a way more emotional matter than we are made to believe, because I feel like it's very easy that politics becomes very political, and we tend to separate the global matters of the world with our empathy and our emotions. And I feel like it's so weird, and it's so big and overwhelming, and people feel like they can't make a change, like their potential doesn't matter, like their voices doesn't matter. And I feel like it's the biggest lie we've been told. It's a very big lie we've been told, because I truly believe that our natural empathy to be good for each other, to be good for the world, for nature, for our future, is within us. But I agree with you that we have somehow forgotten this natural and vital connection to the earth and to the past and to our indigenous roots, and the connection and essence in us. And it's so sad. And I think apart from being a part of organizations like Choose or being an activist or all of those things, my biggest passion is the emotional aspect, because apathy is the biggest enemy to progress, I think. And it's very easy to become apathic when it's all about numbers and anger. But yeah, it's all in the music, I think. I think music can be such an important part of reminding us of who we are, because of art and culture and music. That's what makes us human, us. So I think it's very important, and I have dedicated my whole career to that, and I will continue doing it.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, I was at an event. I was at an event yesterday. We were talking about the importance of art to punch through the numbness almost that we feel today. It was Elif Shafak, the writer, was talking about that and how key that is. We've actually, I think, coming back to something that you were talking about, Nick, that idea of, engaging with climate, engaging with environment, it doesn't all have to come through just the music. There's a lot of different paths to stepping up. And I just wondered whether any of you wanted to kind of come back to that or explore that a little bit more as well.
You're looking at me.
I was looking at you a little bit, yeah.
So past that people through music or outside?
I think through music, but again, we've talked a bit about the medium. So Nick kind of thinking about it doesn't all just have to be in the lyrics. It can be in the way that you put your music out there. It can be in the way that you put yourself out there or the partnerships that you make as well. And sort of whether there's any other projects or examples that you want to talk about a little bit more that pick up on those things.
Yeah, I think there's so, I guess the music is like such a, as these guys were saying, the really beautiful way to connect. And something that we come up against little in our work is the split between what an artist can do using their voice, say on social media, and speaking out, between what an artist can do through their art and creating work. I think musicians create work just personally, I just think it's channeling from somewhere else. You make the work that comes through you, and you don't necessarily have a huge choice about what that is. And so, if that, like for these two amazing artists, it is help like partly channeling this message, but that's not appropriate for all artists. It's not a good fit for all artists. So then, they can be involved by using their platform to speak out, by doing incredible sort of greening. But it's not really. It's such a huge system, and the artist is only one person as part of a huge team. So if someone wants to put out a green vinyl, like Nick's amazing, they look beautiful, you need to check out pictures of them. Yeah. That's just not possible for a lot of artists because they're part of this huge sort of machine. So it's about everything, the whole system changing together in a positive, sort of taking positive steps, encouraged by artists, but the pressure can't always be on artists to do that, I think. And something that is also we're starting to come up against a bit is like, as I was just saying to these guys, we just did this choir project, which is bringing choir singers all around the country together to sing What a Wonderful World. And the idea of that was to bring in the beauty and the emotion with that song and sort of target that, sort of focus it around climate and what we have to lose, and to really try and engage people emotionally. And that's not relying on the big celebrity artist spokesperson. And I think there is a lot of the stuff we do, people kind of just want us to bring in a celeb. And there's something a little bit like, I haven't fully formed this thought, so I'm just saying it as I'm thinking it, but it's like very hierarchical, that nature, when you see a festival lineup and there's a huge name at the top and teeny little name at the bottom, and it's like, we want someone from the top to spread this message. And I'm just not sure it's obviously useful, but it's a bit of that's the old way of doing things, and actually bringing everyone in. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really agree with that.
Yeah.
And it makes people think that their change is made by the faces we connect with changing movements, but we forget that the actual change was made by the people, and it's always by people, by individuals becoming large, which is cool. Yeah. Neat business. Yes, it's really cool.
No, I totally agree. Just jumping off the back of that, I think I don't know about you guys, but I'm so often asked with the platform that we have, how are we going to invoke change? And I think there's a lot of pressure put on artists to be the leaders of the world and to change the world, because there is influence that comes with having a platform, and we're so lucky to be given a platform like that. But to rely on artists solely to get messages across, I mean, even when it comes to, I mean, the media jumps on any artist that steps outside of their artist realm. You know, if it's from anyone speaking out about any political issue anywhere, it's always just make music, just sing, just whatever.
Just play the hits.
I mean, just also coming back to the fires, those bushfires were burning for 3 months in Australia before it was Pink who first got on Twitter and started shouting, like screaming about it on Twitter. And then the world took note. And in Australia, it was like, well, we've known about this. That smoke cloud is still traveling around the world today, 2 years later. It's insane. It'll always be there. So is it nice to have those big artists step forward and say something? Of course it is. Do we wish that I guess the work that the small text, the small font artists are doing was recognized as much? Sure, but I don't know. It is nice to have a big artist jump on, even if it is a bandwagon. That bandwagon is making some great sounds. So,
different spheres of power, which I think Carly brought up on the previous panel, kind of your ability to make change varies depending on where you are. But I think that also comes back to something that we touched on in a conversation just now before the panel, that we have artists who are on a pedestal. We have the practice actually of making art, which is sort of what the choirs, the Sing the Change project tapped into, and actually that power of bringing people to be creators themselves and the agency and the power that you give them through that. But maybe some of the tension that sits between wanting to make a career as an artist and sort of what your idea or what the idea that gets given to you is about making everything bigger and reaching more people and sort of the more lights, that being better. And how are you kind of coming up against that, I guess, in your own climate work, or when you're thinking about these topics? Does it feel like a conflict, or are you finding a path through?
I don't know. It's kind of, it's difficult because as artists, I think I'm sure music has always been it for all of us. And I think when you first start to build as an artist, all you can think is like, how big is this going to go? Like, how many people am I going to reach? How big are my numbers on socials going to be? And then you get really sad about that, because it kind of takes away the beauty of making music. And do I write a song that is easy for people to digest, or do I write a song that I talk about something super specific and try to like change someone's thoughts and actions towards climate or towards any issue in the world? So I feel like it's a constant tug of war, but when we're lucky enough to be able to sit on panels like this, to come to travel the world, to be in Glasgow right now during COP26, I don't know, I think it's just a great opportunity to take a step forward and say something, even if it might alienate someone. And maybe that person needs to be alienated to find their own perspective and come back. So, I don't know, I feel like it's a constant like tug of war until you make a decision. Thank you.
Well, I feel like maybe it's made to believe, it's another lie we've been told, they're lying to us, the government is lying. No, but it's like, I feel like it's another lie that we've been told, the big dream about success or whatever. But if you look at it, it doesn't look like people are so happy. It's a profession with the most drug addiction and suicides we have. So I don't know, I've never understood why that should be appealing. And it seems when anything in this world is blown out of proportion, or when it becomes so big that it's forced to join mass production or whatever, it becomes destructive for something, for someone. So I feel like anything that isn't blown out of proportion is good. because that's the natural way of things and how things kind of should be. Of course, you can't always choose or control these things because the world kind of chooses you. But I feel like the dream is just to, or the dream should be just to create something true. And then if it's true, people will understand it. And if people, at least some people, understand it and connect with it, then they need it and then they want it. And then you have sort of a little, what do you call it, a platform, because you need to be heard by some people to have the time in life to actually create and focus on your art. Is a huge privilege to have, because it's very vital. But I feel like it should be the dream to become like just big enough so you can just do it as your job and hobby. That's definitely the dream.
Because we were talking just before we came in the back, before we came on about, do we still, in this age now, do we still aim to tour in as many territories as possible and have success, just unquestioned, unexamined ambition across as many territories as possible? And I think it's interesting to hear what we were sharing. And for me, like I think it is changing, because I think that unexamined ambition is definitely one of those conditionings that we're told and we don't examine, and that kind of resonate with our culture. I'd say the outgoing culture, so it's very deeply appealing, and so you feel like you're doing well and all of that approval. And if I stopped and I think about the real heart of what I do as an artist, it's about celebrating awareness, and in doing so you kind of raise awareness. And I don't mean raise awareness about certain issues, I just mean literally allowing more consciousness in. Then I know, it's just obvious that by virtue of the fact that I'm interested in doing this work, although I do something unique, I recognize that, there are loads of people, so many, countless people who are all committed to the same work around the world. And if it's my lane, we'll see what destiny has for me, but if it's my lane to work in the UK, across Europe, and these kind of territories, and I do each room as 1,000 people or 500 people, and the quality and the intensity of our connection is a direct one every night, and it changes people, then like that's also super fulfilling and also more sustainable as an individual, as a father, as someone who's just got two legs and one life, and just I don't want to travel everywhere. And yeah, so I'm looking at things differently. These are not conclusions exactly, but they're new questions for sure.
Yeah.
I really agree with that, Nick. And I think it's not a conclusion, but something I've been it's there in my mind. It's just this idea of the Western music industry being this cultural colonialist. And we're like, we have to go and play our music everywhere and everyone must listen.
That's it.
And it's like, do we really? No. But then, obviously, it's amazing hearing artists from all around the world. So it's like, I wouldn't wish that upon people, but I think it's something that we could do with questioning, perhaps.
It shouldn't be forced, I think. Sometimes music can be a very good uniting, worldly, beautiful language that we all need, and it connects us in a rare way. But it shouldn't be like the one goal. And greediness is what got us in this problem in the first place. So if we just stop being so greedy all the time, I think things will be a lot better.
The music industry mirrors a lot of the inequalities that got us here in the first place, including sort of overconsumption in certain parts of the world at the expense of other parts, I guess. I think we have some time for questions now from the audience. Does anyone have a question? Do you make yourself known and we'll bring a mic around to you?
Hi, I had a question which is obviously on the back of COVID and Brexit and lots of other things that are changing the world. Do you think a lot of what you're talking about can be achieved digitally so that artists don't actually have to travel all over the world, that a lot of that connection can be made via digital means?
Who wants to take that first of all?
I mean, yeah, I feel like many things can be translated digitally, and that's an incredible benefit in this time, and there's so much we can do in that way, but not all things can, and there's a direct transmission that happens when we're all in the room together that's grounded in physiology that you can't replicate any other way, I think.
I agree.
I agree as well.
It's proven in our by brain researchers that when people are actually in a room together and we are for once experiencing one thing as a unit, it does something completely magical to our minds. And people who attend concerts are actually, proven, they did like a research on it, are proven to be a bit more happier because they experience unity, whatever, you know. But
the good stuff.
They experience the good stuff often, so it's definitely irreplaceable, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think the audience interaction with each other is just as important as the audience interaction with the artist. And you miss that you sat at home watching a live stream.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, they've done studies on human connection and intimacy in that you're not supposed to stare someone in the eyes as long as we have been over Zooms. Like when you're talking to someone in person, you'd never be like, oh, it's strange, you know.
I can't not easy just
like, please get away from me. But so I think
do you do that on Zoom?
Well, you and me, Nick, I feel like we could. But no, I just think that if you're trying to get a message as big as what we're trying to get across and get action across, it is important to be physically present. And I think as artists, selfishly, I don't know, I want people to take it in and react when I perform. And it's not fun performing to furniture. But that's what we've been doing the last 2 years. And I feel like we've been able to create some kind of positive change, whether that is just a relief from the reality of the world. So I don't know, it's kind of like yes and no.
It's different forms of digital experience, I think, that we're trying to work out at the moment, but maybe not quite there yet. But I think the other thing as well is in the music industry, so much travel happens around the artist as well, that is an easier place to start to some extent. So the meetings that we would have traveled for in the past that actually we can replace by Zoom before maybe we look at the show itself in the same way as well. Does anyone else have any questions?
Me.
My question is, how would you use your platform to make the sort of travelling aspect and, you know, moving trucks around and that sort of thing, or hard media more sustainable in the music industry?
Well, there are many things you can do to tour way more environmental friendly and put pressure on the festivals you're playing and just demand change wherever you're going as a result of, if I'm going to play in your festival, I want you to do this or to at least try to do this. Like an organization called Choose with 3 O's, very many O's, and it helps you like also choose a charity where you kind of clean as much air as you pollute. So you pay, if you can afford it, you pay like a certain amount every year, and then you help the world clean as much as you ruin, which is good. But also I think it must be better for one band and a crew to travel around rather than all the fans coming to you. So I feel like it's the best solution in the long term, even though it's very sad that we contribute to so much air time. It's very devastating, but it's better than all the people coming to you.
I think Radiohead found that out, didn't they?
Yeah.
They stopped touring at one point, and then they found that didn't work because all the fans travelled.
And then so it is better, but there are a lot of things you can do, small things, and every small thing matters. Like just changing the way you tour, spend time on it, and try to,
Can I do a quick plug?
Yeah.
For the Music Declares emergency website.
Yes.
It's musicdeclares.net, and you can go to the actions page there, and there's stuff there about Green Riders, which is not just your backstage rider, but your technical rider, where you can be part of that scheme and have a template of what you say to the venue. All sorts of actions on there. So
it's very good.
musicdeclares.net. And the Julie's Bicycle website, of course.
Thanks. And also the Tyndall Centre research that we just heard about earlier. I think it's that importance of kind of setting that commitment with the whole team that works on a tour from the beginning, from the routing, from even choosing where you're going, from having those conversations with the venues and festivals, from choosing to begin with that you're going to take fewer trucks or people or stuff with you.
And coming to that conclusion very early on in the process, because you can't retrofit that. Once your tour's routed, it's routed.
It's
true.
Brilliant. Have we got any other questions?
I think it's fantastic that you guys are showing up at COP26. What would your advice be to other artists that are watching this, whose publicity teams, marketing teams, management are saying, do not put your head above the parapet, it will ruin your brand, it will ruin your career? What would your advice be to those artists?
Get a new team.
Boom.
I don't know. I feel like it's like, get a new team that believe in what you want to believe.
Yeah.
As an artist, I don't think it's anyone else's job to implant or whatever their beliefs on you and have you represent them.
Yeah.
You're representing yourself, and hopefully you're surrounded yourself with people that want to embolden your vision and not create one for you. So.
Yeah, I agree, man. I'm sure there are lots of scenarios still where you get that dynamic of an artist who just does what they're told or that control stuff. But it does feel a bit antiquated already. Like it's of these times that standing for something it's clear. It really matters, and I think therefore it becomes more of a personal journey for the individual, that we could all have our own experiences of like finding the courage to stand up for what you believe is true, and then that's a kind of ripening process, isn't it? You can't make the apple ripen quicker. It's a certain point where an individual realizes, oh, okay, if I don't speak up for what I believe in, that eventually exhausts itself in these ways. If I do speak up for believing, I'm scared for these reasons, but that wasn't a choice, that other one, because that's if you lack integrity, then you'll run out. You just will at some point.
Yeah, it's true.
So then it's a choiceless decision. It's a decision that you damned if I do, damned if I don't. So I may as well like stand for what I believe in, and then in comes the support, and in comes the creativity, and in comes the affirmation, and in comes because you made a decision, and that's where it begins, you know. So everyone's at their own personal process with that.
And ask for help. Ask for help from Julie's Bicycle, from Earth Percent, from Music Declares, from anyone else that you see stepping forward as well. And you will be supported, I think.
I'd also say the Taylor Swift documentary on Netflix, there's this scene where she's deciding whether or not to do a political tweet that she's obviously never done. And it's really interesting to watch that process behind the scenes. And it's actually quite inspiring to just, when she just hits go on it, she knows it's just a shitstorm, basically.
Yeah, wow. Very much
But it's
really
worth
enjoyable
it.
to watch.
It's also the screen is split between Taylor and her mum, and then like 4 old white men on the other side.
Yeah.
And she's like, guys, what are you doing? She's like, I have to do this. No, don't do it. She's like, I've done it.
But yeah, it's quite inspiring.
Fantastic. Well, we've just got a few minutes left. So to close, is there a takeaway that you can give to everyone who's listening and watching? A question, something for them to sit with, an action to take when they leave us here today?
I think for me, like, it's really simple, but the quote of the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it.
Yeah.
If you can think about that as much as I do, then you might become a little more conscious in what you're doing every day. As I said at the start, the little things that we do absolutely help, but it is putting the pressure on the people who make decisions in our world to fight the climate emergency. So, yeah.
Great.
I think if you want to do, it's nothing to do with music, but if you want to do one thing that doesn't cost any money and takes like a day, that collectively will make huge change, it's like switch your bank. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to name and shame Barclays and HSBC because they're terrible, but there's a website called switchit.green where you can go on and type in what bank you're with, and it just tells you how terrible they are. And it's also investment in not only fossil fuels, but arms, and the fossil fuel industry depends on that money, and that's your money that's being invested in this horrific stuff. And there's banks that don't do it, like normal high street banks that don't, so you can absolutely move to Triodos Co-op or what's the other one? Nationwide, basically. But yeah, go to switchit.green, and then, yeah, that can help you guide your route through it.
Thanks, Faye. That's usefully practical. I have something perhaps a bit more abstract to think about. It's a phrase I think that really cuts to the heart of something very interesting about these times. I should really know who said it. I don't. But the phrase is, the question is less about the future of humanity, but rather about the presence of eternity. And I just think that flips it, you know? And it comes, I experience that as quite a big point. The question is less about the future of humanity, but rather the presence of eternity. But from that bigger scope, it comes right down into how we live each day, because it's like, do we live in fear, or do we live in hope or inspiration? And I think inspiration is the presence of that eternity. It feels like, you know, on these small measures, it feels like us who are doing it, me, my separate self, but really like it's an expression of life's desire to live, even in the small ways that we do it. So that, in this phrase, is described as the presence of eternity. Yeah, think on that one.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Finally, Aurora.
Well, yes, another contribution from the spiritual side of the couch over here. Well, I got an epiphany, I remember, when I was young, and I thought about the fact that I feel like this is a matter of saving the soul, an essence of humankind, or preserving it maybe, or reclaiming it. And I was thinking about like who are we if we let our world die? What are we? And everything we've done, all our art, music, and culture, all the people who died and fought in war, all our victories and battles. If we kill the world and kill ourselves with it, what does it all mean? Like the essence of us. And it's just so sad and unacceptable to think that we have one home, one planet, and as far as we know, this is the only planet that contains life in the whole of the universe. And still we're managing to ruin it. This one planet in this whole vast of, so like it's so incredibly unacceptable to ruin the one planet with life that we know about. Like we just can't do, you know. So having that thought really helped me kind of gain the sense of emergency this matter has and is, and also never forget about your potential and how much we all matter in this. You know, we are so important and vital, each and every one of us, in this war. I guess is a hard word. I don't like using that word, but war against global warming. So yeah, never forget your potential, our potential.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. There is so much to take away here. Stand up, use your voice, use your power wherever you can. Thank you so much to Aurora, Nick, Faye, and Sam. And thanks to UMA Entertainment for having us today, and all of you for coming.
And thank you, Cara. Thank you.